Greetings, my scattered brothers and sisters in the Lord. Trust you know the Lord is with you wherever you find yourself scattered today, and that you know that His presence with you is more than enough for whatever you might face today. And I am scattered at Idlewild Pines for youth camp this week, but I'm still trying to follow Jesus, and we're keeping up with Jesus on His way to Jerusalem. And Jesus is now, we're at the end of Mark chapter 10, and Jesus is passing through Jericho. And so I'll pick it up at 10:46. Then they came to Jericho. As Jesus and his disciples, together with a large crowd, were leaving the city, a blind man, Bartimaeus, which means son of Timaeus, was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard that it was Jesus of Nazareth, he began to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." Many rebuked him and told him to be quiet, but he shouted all the more, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus asked him. The blind man said, "Rabbi, I want to see." "Go," said Jesus, "your faith has healed you." Immediately he received his sight, and he followed Jesus along the way to Jerusalem. Now, this is a pretty significant moment in the Gospel of Mark. And yes, it's really significant that a blind man is being healed. And I don't want to minimize that whatsoever. The power of Jesus to heal the blind. In fact, this is the second blind man that Jesus has healed in the Gospel of Mark. And both of them are just incredibly important miracles, both in terms of the healing that they provide, but also in terms of the place or the role that they play within the Gospel of Mark. And so if I could put it this way, not only is a blind man healed, but this is actually hope for blind disciples that they would be healed. See, this blind man is calling out to Jesus, "Son of David, have mercy on me." Calling Jesus Son of David, he's already recognizing that Jesus is the Christ, that he's the Messiah. That's what the term Son of David means. And so he's kind of like Peter when Peter said, "You are the Christ." And he's kind of like James and John when they came to Jesus and said, "Jesus, when you come into your kingdom, would you do something for us? What do you want me to do for you? We want to sit at your right and your left." And so this blind man sees, as much as the disciples see, that Jesus is the Christ, the Messiah, the one who's bringing in God's kingdom. And so Jesus says, "Stop, call him." And they call to him, and he throws aside his cloak, and he comes to Jesus. And Jesus says, "What do you want me to do for you?" Now, that's the same question that Jesus asked James and John. "What do you want me to do for you?" They wanted power seats. They wanted to sit at his right and his left. They wanted greatness. But this blind man, he's not asking for greatness. He's asking simply to see. And Jesus says, "Your faith has made you well. Your faith has healed you. Your faith has saved you." And his sight is restored. And what does he do? He follows Jesus. And where is Jesus going? To Jerusalem. And so we have a blind disciple, so to speak, a disciple who sees that Jesus is the Christ, being healed, giving full sight, so that he follows Jesus to Jerusalem. Jesus has been teaching. That's where he's going to go. That's where he's going to be crucified. And Jesus has taught them that if you want to be part of my kingdom, if you're going to come after me, you have to deny yourself and take up your cross and follow me. This blind man now sees following Jesus all the way to Jerusalem. It's a miracle of incredible hope. Hope that blind disciples can actually receive their sight and believe enough to follow. I kind of remember the prayer of that dad, "I believe, help my unbelief." The blind man believed that Jesus is the Christ, but he knew he wasn't seeing. "Well, what do you want me to do for you?" "I want to see." "Maybe help my unbelief, Jesus, that your kingdom comes through the cross. Help me to recognize that if I'm going to be part of your kingdom, I need to throw everything aside and jump to my feet and follow you and place my full faith and hope in you. And trust that as I surrender everything to you, that's actually how I enter into the kingdom. So I don't know where you find yourself scattered today. I don't know what blind spots you might have, but I know we all have blind spots when it comes to following Jesus and letting go of things and really denying ourselves and taking up our cross. And my prayer, no, my hope is, confidence is, that Jesus doesn't leave you or me. He doesn't leave his disciples blind, but he brings us to the place to where we can follow faithfully, to where we can follow closely, to where we see enough to keep on following, even when it's on a way to the cross of surrendering even more. Well, God bless. Have a great day, and may the Lord bless you with sight to follow well.